So,
We're
you know what I'm
streaming
doing?
live on YouTube.
I'm streaming live on YouTube.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. A little something for the people. A little behind the scenes something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is good. People are watching. They like it. I like that the people who like get us on Facebook Live or whatever. What's that? I'm streaming live on YouTube. Nice. So, yeah.
Was that Echo?
Yeah, it was Echo. That was our live on YouTube.
Oh.
I muted our live on YouTube. I don't think I need to watch us on YouTube, but there's a delay.
Ah.
Yeah, so that's what you get with YouTube. Get a delay. This should be good. Our guest cannot figure out how to get on.
Oh.
And so that's cool. So we got that going for us.
Is he out of the country?
Yeah, he's also older.
Hmm.
And I mean that to the viewers on YouTube respectfully. So if he's not there, you could have a rant.
I could just, I could take longer on the slides. I'm flexible.
Yeah.
Or I'll rant about. I'll have to come up with something to rant about.
You'll filibuster.
So. I will read the loan servicing agreement.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah.
I like how YouTube, by the way, has a delay. It's like a 30-second delay. And I know it's because it's processing and everything.
Yeah.
But part of me likes the idea that it's just in case I swear.
We got a dump button.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the best part is not the delay. It's the part where it swaps us to the other sides of the screen. That just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Facebook did that too. But the pre-show is the best part of the show.
Oh, I need to have my walk-in.
All right. I guess we're making an entrance. See you in a minute. I look concerned.
Yeah. You want to see mine?
Yeah. Oh, we are definitely hitting broadcast right now. This could be the greatest entrance in the history of a 2-month podcast. I'm John Frutkin, rocking with Adam Buck.
That's right.
We are talking today on Small Business Update Thursday. It's 3:00 somewhere. That somewhere is Phoenix, Arizona. I remain in Mexico. And Adam is holding down the fort. Good afternoon. How are you, Adam?
Good. I'm doing quite all right, even with our all of our mask requirements that we have going on in the city of Scottsdale.
Yep, big part of the show today. So let me kind of give you the rundown so everybody could get real excited about this and we won't lose all our viewers like we usually do. Of course, we have some information about the Paycheck Protection Program. We also are going to talk vaccines, self-quarantine, masks. We might just have an opportunity to talk to an international real estate investor if he can figure out his way onto the system. And we have a new segment called That's My Rant. It's probably all worthwhile. So with that being said, we start where we always start, the important news of the day, sports.
Sports.
Yeah. So
what is going on in the wild world of sports and COVID-19?
Well, one of the big things, of course, has to do with whether or not there was a noose in Bubba Wallace's stall in NASCAR. But because I'm not an expert in that, I'm going to go to another big story, which is sports related in the sense it's tennis. Novak Djokovic and his wife, Helena, have tested positive for COVID-19 after throwing a tennis tournament in Croatia. More than 6,000 people attended. And of course, not only did Novak Djokovic, the #1 tennis player in the world, catch COVID, so did Denver Nuggets Nikolai Jokic. Jokic needs to remain in Serbia, where he lives, while Djokovic remains in Croatia, where he lives, all the while you probably shouldn't be having big tennis tournaments. And Jokic is needed in the United States in order to start playing basketball again because he's an all-star center for the Denver Nuggets. And that was me pronouncing words like a pro.
From Croatia.
From, a little Serbian, little Croatian. But that D, that J, really got to know what you're doing in order to get that done. So that's your sports news. The other big news, of course, is the self-quarantine stuff. Did you see what came out of New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut?
Yeah, they just don't like certain states like Arizona coming to their, now they've got it under control. They don't want us to come and infect them.
Yeah, they are definitely a little bit sensitive about that. So it turns out the turnabout's fair play. Back during the early days, if you traveled from New York to Arizona, you had to quarantine for 14 days. If you go there, you have to quarantine for 14 days. This, by the way, does not end with New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. The European Union has some travel guidelines that have not yet been published, but of course been scoped out by the New York Times. And it looks like the United States of America will not be visiting Europe anytime soon. So we and other high-risk countries will not be going, while, ironically enough, Chinese nationals will be welcome.
I heard that California had a big spike, a 24-hour spike, one of the largest they've had. So we still have issues.
Yeah, we are definitely not handling this great. But let's talk about some law. I'm turning it over to you. Talk to us a little bit about the Paycheck Protection Program.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, our Paycheck Protection Program loan forgiveness guidelines. We got some new updated information recently. So after you get the loan, when do you apply for the forgiveness? Not when do you apply for the loan, but when do you apply for the forgiveness? And we got guidance that really anytime during the 24-week period after you've spent the money, you can now go ahead and file your loan forgiveness paperwork. So how do you apply for loan forgiveness? Well, the SBA has two new forms. It's a revised 3508 or a 3508EZ. Or your lender might have their own form. It just depends. Now, they also talked about a deferral period. It can be deferred up to 10 months while you're applying for this loan forgiveness. But if you don't apply for loan forgiveness in 10 months, then it's no longer deferred, and then you have to start paying principal and interest. But until this is all sorted out, nobody's paying anything.
Yeah, that would be a whoops. You just forgot to apply for forgiveness, or yeah, you got to do that at some point.
All right. So this 3508EZ form, this is supposed to be a streamlined way for people to apply for loan forgiveness, but it only applies under certain circumstances. So if you're self-employed and have no employees, you get to use the easy form. If you didn't reduce the salaries or wages of your employees by more than 25%, and you didn't reduce the number of employees, you get to go straight to the easy form. Or if you experienced reductions in your business activity as a result of the healthcare or the health directives associated with COVID-19, and you did not reduce salaries or wages by more than 25%, which we'll talk about this a little bit more. So when you submit your application, the lender has to review it. And these are the things they're going to look for. They're supposed to confirm that you signed all the certifications. And that's a big deal for them. Hold you accountable later if you lied. The second one is they're going to confirm the receipt of the documentation verifying your payroll and non-payroll costs. And then they're going to confirm all of the calculations that you made. And if they agree with you, then they will make a decision. They've got 60 days to reach a decision on whether they're going to forgive the whole amount or part of it. And then once they determine that they're going to forgive it, then they submit it to the SBA. And within 90 days, the SBA then pays money to the lender with interest to pay off the entire loan. The lender marks the PPP loan as paid in full, and you're done. So there's a lot of questions about the covered period. We talked about that. Originally, it was 8 weeks. It's been extended to 24 weeks.
Getting a little bit of Zoom pause on your side.
Oh, really? Are we good now? All right. So the loan forgiveness is reduced based on reductions in full-time equivalent employees or an employee's salary and wages. So if you cut wages or cut employees, less forgiveness. So if you get less forgiveness if you reduce your number of employees compared to your base period. So they look at no reduction in loan forgiveness if you hire back the same number of employees by December 31st, 2020. And this is what I like to call the I tried provision. If you're able to document that you had an ability to rehire inability to rehire former employees, they didn't want to come back, inability to hire similarly qualified employees for unfilled positions by December 31, 2020, or your business was unable to return to the same level of business activity that you had prior to COVID-19 because of directives from Secretary of Health and Human Services or the CDC or OSHA. So basically you tried your best and you still couldn't, you still might be able to qualify for full loan forgiveness. So this is our last slide. How do you document this? So you have to make a good faith written offer to hire somebody or to restore their number of hours that they had. It's got to be for the same salary or wages or the same number of hours. And then the offer has to be rejected by the employee or the person. And then you have to maintain the records documenting the offer and the rejection. And so if you do that, then you can still, in theory, get full forgiveness of the loan. So that is PPP mania, the latest and greatest of loan forgiveness.
Well, I would call that excellent. We have a guest, so let me tell you a little background story so everybody knows. I lived part of the time in Colombia. Rich Holman is a leading American entrepreneur in Colombia, but he also works in other places, Puerto Rico, Portugal. Basically, you're all around international genius. And he is trapped in some sort of quarantine down there, and he's joining us. Rich, you there?
Hey, John. How you doing, buddy?
This is the closest I could get to Rich. I am locked out and he's locked in. So Rich, talk to us a little bit about your day-to-day. We kind of we had a lawyer on about a month ago, so that they'll get a good, decent idea of what life is like, but we're all kind of running around kissing each other here. So what's going on in Colombia?
Well, Colombia is probably just the opposite of the United States. There's good news and bad news. I guess the bad news in a way is we're still under quarantine. I get to go out on certain days with my ID card. They check my temperature to go to the grocery store and everything else. But I'm on day 96 of quarantine. So the girl cuts my hair, sneaks in a cab and comes over illegally. The girl does my nails, my dance teacher, my maid. If you go on a taxi, they don't really bother you, but in theory, you could be fined like $350 if they catch you out and about. But the good news is we've only had like 20 deaths in an area of 3.5 million people. In fact, Medellin was written up in New York Times and Wall Street Journal, excuse me, with the phenomenal job they're doing here. They got on this thing early, shut it down. And plus the people here are pretty healthy. So good news is we're not having a problem with the virus, but it's not particularly helping business, obviously. And we don't have the gravy train deals they got in the States. There's no stimulus here. If you're starving, you can put a red flag out or register the mayor and they'll drop some food by your place. But no gravy train. Now, my brother lives in Little Rock, has 3 assisted living facilities. In the last 2 months, he's gotten 7 checks. 3 of them, he doesn't know what they're for. You know, to tune about $1 million. I mean, it's like, he's like, what the heck? In Colombia, our company, we're in the hospitality business. We're here, we're in Puerto Rico, we're in Portugal, and we ain't got any checks from the government. We've got nothing from anybody. We just laid off about half our staff, our employees. You know, when our business depends on tourism, and most of the tourists come to the United States, we're not doing very well. We got expenses and no income. And we got some major projects in Puerto Rico on hold right now, one in Portugal on hold. Tough environment. We just got to sled our way through it. But, you know, I think we'll make it. I mean, we've cut our expenses back 70% now, and everybody's making a sacrifice to get to the end game. But we're like, we don't know the uncertainty. They're talking about open up international airfare here September 1st. You can't even fly in Colombia right now. Everything's grounded. Right. But next month it's supposed to open up airlines in country. But we don't know what the rules are going to be coming to the United States to Colombia. Maybe they'll make you quarantine 14 days, or maybe they'll have to get a COVID test, or maybe they won't even let you in from the United States, just like Europe. So we don't know. A lot of uncertainty here.
You know, not only could you not fly domestically, you can't even drive domestically. So you can't go to the lake or anything else like that without permiso, no. And so you're going nowhere.
No, in fact, they have, each little town and area has police out and they'll stop you. I know a guy went up to El Retiro and he got to 2 blocks. The third one, they did check him. He had some fake medicine with him. So he had to take this medicine to somebody and they let him in. But no, there's no picnics. There's no driving. I mean, you can sort of drive around on your day and take a chance, but you're supposed to only be going to the grocery store, the pharmacy, or the bank. And in theory, you could be fined if you're out of those 3.
So let's put like a little bit of a happy face on this. You've been talking for decades to American investors overseas. I would presume that you are seeing some opportunities. Why don't you talk a little bit about kind of your firm, Life of Fire's current situation and opportunities you see now, even through the midst of this?
Good question. First of all, you know, we started out selling real estate in Medellin, then we expanded to property management. Then we started doing commercial development, and then we expanded to Cartagena, Bogota, and Cali. And then we saw similar opportunities in Puerto Rico about 3 years ago. We said, this is like Medellin over again. You know, just the press, you cannot believe the lamestream media, unfortunately. You just can't believe anything in the press. You got to go kick the tires yourself. You know this. You love Medellin, but, you know, if you'd read the newspapers, you never would have come here. So Puerto Rico's been phenomenal. We love our foothold now in Western Europe and Portugal, but we're trying to find good undervalued situations in areas that are going to be growing in tourism and growing in the hospitality business. So that's what we do. I mean, and we've done a very good job at it. We started with 1 employee in 2007. And as of 3 months ago, we had 110. Now we're back to about 50. Yeah. But it's amazing. I mean, like Puerto Rico is the best tax advantage place an American citizen could operate in. I mean, with all the tax, if you go down there and be a resident 6 months a year, you can get your taxes personally down to 0 and corporately down to 4%. I mean, it's unbelievable gravy train there. Plus all the tax incentives they got going. Puerto Rico just had their best year in history last year in tourism. They've got a new director of the island, private. Instead of using the government to do it, they're doing it privately. Guy came from the Chamber of Commerce at Myrtle Beach, increased tourism 45% 2 years in his sleep. And we'd had a record year this year. But so it's great. We love Puerto Rico. Portugal, of course, is just a whole different story for Western Europe. And you know about Medellin. I mean, it's the best place in the world. You've been here. You love it. I've been here 13 years. You two don't have enough money to bring me back to the States. I mean, the lifestyle here is so good. But the opportunities, like right now, just a month ago, the dollar hit 4,000 a peso. When I bought my place, it was 2,000. Now it's 4,000. We had 2 guys in the States, never been to Medellin, bought places long distance because it's crazy what the dollar buys. Now, how the heck you go in the last 10 years from 6 trillion in debt to 26 trillion in debt, and your dollar gets stronger. I can't figure that out. I missed that in economics class. How you can quadruple your debt and your currency gets stronger. But I think that dog is going to come on the hunt one day. I think this is a great time to diversify, and especially in Colombia. I think there's a lot of opportunities here. The dollar is so strong. I don't look at the price of the menus anymore. I mean, and the place we go are the most expensive in town, John. And I don't even look at the price because it's so small. If it hits $10 or $15, I'd be shocked. So it's a great place. And of course, being 72 degrees every day doesn't hurt. Springtime every day. And we got, we don't have the COVID-19 problem. So still a great place, great opportunities. And we just got to get through this pandemic.
Well, I'm having a little bit of connection problems with you, Rich, which I know are on my Mexican end of this. But thank you so much for coming by, and we'll make sure that people know, if they're interested in doing foreign real estate investment, that you run a real good shop. And I think that there's generally a sense that your English is fantastic.
Well, thank you. Thank you, John.
All right, Rich Holman, thanks so much for being on with us. We really, really do appreciate it.
You're welcome. Come see us.
Okay. All right. Yep. So here is the kind of problem with me being in Mexico, which is that my connection is horrible. But I will tell you that the great thing about Colombia is that they have good internet. So maybe one day I'll be back there again. All right, back to interesting things. You ready?
Yeah.
Mask ordinances. We got mask ordinances. One thing that is really important to know is if you are in Maricopa County, anywhere in Maricopa County, one thing is definitely not legal anymore, and it is a mask with one of those little vent holes on it. Did you know that this was a problem, Adam, before?
Well, I read something about it, but when I was out the other day, I noticed a lot of people had them, and a lot of them were older people.
Yeah.
So they seem to be kind of the preference of maybe an older crowd. But yeah, I didn't know that, and then so I guess those aren't that effective, huh?
Little problem with those. So those little holes there, they allow you to breathe out easier. Problem is, if you're breathing in dust and breathing out clean air, that's great. If you are breathing out COVID, it is bad. The mask ordinances are designed basically for only one reason, is prevent other people from getting sick, not you. And so while those masks are great because they prevent blood splatter coming in, they don't prevent germs, but you wearing them protects everybody around you. Scottsdale has the most aggressive of all mask ordinances. You get a warning in Maricopa County. In Scottsdale, not only can you be found guilty of a misdemeanor, so could the business that allowed you to wear it. So depending on where you are, it's a pretty serious thing. Wear your mask in public. It's kind of the right thing to do, amongst other things. And that sort of thing brings me directly to that's my rant. I feel like that's my rant should have some sort of time limit to it. But fortunately, it doesn't. So I'm going to do a rant. All right. So Congressman Schweikert said something last week at the end of the interview that really got to me, and I've just been thinking about the whole week. And he made this appeal that politicians sometimes do for a different type of politics where ideals battle each other instead of people yelling at each other. And of course, he said that in the same interview where he was unhappily admitting that he'd be attending the rally that President Trump had earlier this week in Arizona. Well, I think we all agree that there's a problem with the tone that President Trump has in politics, but it isn't just him, right? It's both sides of this. And don't think that that this is because of the politicians, it's because of us. And it's true of right wingers, it's true of left wingers. And truthfully, I think pretty much everybody's sick of it. You know, the president of the United States is attempting to undermine the result of the next election already because we have mail-in ballots, which, by the way, we've had successfully in Arizona, 38 other states, and the District of Columbia for a long time. Then we have other leaders who are suggesting we defund the police, by implication, not having a police force. And that way we're going to correct decades and centuries of systemic racism that reverberates through everything we have. It's in schools, it's in our justice system, and that idea is just stupid. So here's the point. We have very challenging times with very complex issues. And incredibly, we have every American feeling that if someone out there would stop trying to take their jobs and their rights and take away the hope for the future of their children, that's the person to vote for. And so how do we break away from this pattern? Well, my idea is maybe we just insist that the politicians just tell us the truth and tell us, hey, you're gonna have to pay attention because these problems are kind of complex and they require good ideas. And sometimes the best ideas turn out to be a combination of both sides. So the end of my rant is stop being simpletons. And that's my rant. You like, that's my rant?
That was a good rant. You came in under time, under budget, you know?
Yeah, but I think I packed a punch. Questions are open, by the way. So if you want to ask a question, go to the bottom, hit Q&A, and you can do that. If you are on YouTube Live, then you can't because I'm paying no attention to it. Fun fact, right, for this one, Adam? We usually have somewhere between like 100 and 200 people who watch this and listen to podcasts of it. Turns out my Facebook friends kick butt. 250 people watched Facebook Live last week. Currently 3 people on YouTube. So, you know, it doesn't work. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about vaccines, shall we?
Do you have one? Have you created one or what?
No, but I learned something. You ready for this? This is the part where I stop ranting and I become a doctor.
Okay.
So did
Dr.
you
Frutkin.
know? So everybody believes, everybody meaning most people, believe that the coronavirus, that this is some sort of flu, right? That COVID-19 is related to the influenza virus. And it is in the sense they're both viruses. But a coronavirus is actually the same type of virus that creates a common cold, not the flu. So here's a problem. We have never, ever had a vaccine for the common cold or any coronavirus. That's a problem. So we have researchers who are working on something that's really, really brand new. And that is actually injecting the protein into the cells, causing it to replicate, but the protein itself is not causing symptoms. And so that replication of the protein is creating, at least with respect to one of the 2 major ones, Moderna and AstraZeneca are both producing these, but it is basically producing this response. But here's the tricky thing about colds. Tricky thing about colds is that you can catch them again pretty fast. Usually it's only 2 or 3 months until you lose your ability to fight off that same cold and you catch it again. In fact, the average person gets 2 to 3 colds a year. Breaking news. This is a lot more like a cold than the flu. So it turns out not only do we need a vaccine that's different, that will work against something that natural will work against, natural antibodies, but we also have a problem because we can't really get herd immunity, it doesn't look like, from this at all. So that's scary and sad, but that is your little medical corner update that turns out the coronavirus, not the flu at all, a lot more like a cold. By the way, this is not new. You know, in 2000, in the early 2000s, and then again about a decade ago, we had SARS and MERS, and these were both coronaviruses. In fact, fun fact, COVID-19, which, by the way, the president couldn't figure out why it's called COVID-19. Do you know why it's called COVID-19?
I was assumed because it was in 2019, but.
Yeah, it turns out you're right. So it wasn't that tricky. Anyway, COVID-19, which was in 2019, is 96% the same as SARS, which was in 2002, which demonstrates that it almost certainly came from bats, which is what we traced it from. So how do you like that? Dr. Corner, John Frutkin.
So do we need to update it to COVID-20 now since we're in 2020, or how does that work?
Nope, it is going to be COVID-19 till it's done. If we get a offshoot of it, maybe we call it, you know, some sort of COVID-19 version 2020. We do have a question. My sister has a cleaning business and applied for the PPP, and each time her account is lost. Any direction you could point us in? So this is not an uncommon question, by the way.
So
what do you tell people who are like applying and it goes into some black hole?
Well, I guess my question is, do they have employees? If not, then it should be pretty straightforward, but apply to the bank. We've told people apply to multiple if one's not, responding, but I believe the deadline is June 30th, correct? So there's and I saw some banks.
Get on your horse, call a local bank. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you just got to call.
You saw some banks.
Yeah, just keep applying, especially because some banks are cutting off their applications a few days early. So I would not wait much longer than tomorrow, and apply everywhere, multiple places, and that's about all I got.
All right, going to talk about the poll. Number one, have you had contact with an employee or family member that had COVID? 18% yes, 82% no. And, turns out most people still don't know somebody who had COVID. You think that's kind of putting people a little bit, kind of like lackadaisical because it's not somebody they know? I do.
Yeah, I think everybody takes it seriously when it hits closer to home.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, and I think that's why a lot of Arizona is reluctant to do a whole lot of social distancing or masks or anything, because it's kind of like this boogeyman that people say is out there, but nobody's really seen or experienced. So it's like, well, I'm sure I'm fine. And then we just disregard the guidance.
Yeah. Number two, do you think countries should ban travelers from the United States? 76% of people think yes. Have you been tested for COVID or for antibodies to COVID? 29% have, in fact, been tested. Will you get the vaccine when it's available? 53% said yes, 29% said no, and 18% said, I don't know, I'm scared, all in caps. Have you had emotional problems sleeping as a result of the worry of the pandemic? 12% said yes, and 88% said no. I'm part of the 12%. Is this bothering you at all? Or are you good? All right, you're good. Would you have a group of 15 family members over to the house for a barbecue? The answer is 71% said no. There was a family who did this, 18 of them. I think there's more than 15 because 18 of them ended up with COVID. And would you invest internationally? 41% said yes, 41% said I guess, it depends where, and 18% just said no. So with that being said, I'm really, really sorry that I have no ability to control my internet. So the worst part about this is I don't know how much of it you heard of me, but when we send it out to record, from recording, you, Adam, are going to sound like you have a bad internet connection.
All right.
So power to John Frutkin, local recording rocks. This will be posted up on YouTube. You can see it there. Obviously, we are more than happy to join you in your car or on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, et cetera, et cetera. We'll see you next week. We'll talk a little bit of law. We'll find a guest, and I will search high and low for a good internet connection. We will talk to you later. Thanks for joining us.